Thank you very much, Natasha, for enlightening us on an aspect of the ills that VAWA brings that I'm sure many of us were completely unaware of. I'd now like to introduce Ron Grignall. Ron Grignall, among his many impressive credits, served for a decade as a lieutenant commander on a U.S. submarine. He also, Radar is lucky enough to have him as a member of Radar's board. A few years back, he ran for office on a family law reform platform, and for a first-time candidate on such a controversial issue, in spite of the fact that he didn't get over 50%, 40% showing was quite impressive. Ron's the father of 2 daughters, and both of them are helping out with this cause. Ron?
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate everybody being here. It's kind of good speaking further to the end because there's a lot more people here. Even got some superheroes here to listen to me, so I appreciate that. So thanks. I want to kind of talk about 2 things. What it looks like for the future of VAWA, and also how we measure ourselves and whether or not we're winning or losing. I think we have a lot of reasons for optimism. Back, as Mark said, back when I was in the Navy, I was a submarine officer. We always had to measure ourselves on how well we're doing. We do these exercises with these airplanes, and we always said, of course we're winning. There's a whole lot more airplanes in the ocean than there are submarines in the sky. So that's the kind of thing I want to talk about a little bit. I went to the Other Side's conference recently. I didn't wear a superhero costume or anything like that. I was, just trying to be low-key. And they bring up some true victims of domestic violence. And it's pretty powerful. I mean, I'll give them that. There are true victims of violence. But they had one of these ladies up here. She went through this tragic situation. Husband came to her place of work and all this stuff. And in her speech, she said, protective orders don't really work. You got to know how to protect yourself. And I'm sitting there saying, yes, she gets it. Protective orders don't really protect people that are actually the victims. And but then 2 minutes later, she said, and we got to make it easier to get protective orders. So there was a little disconnect there. But there is some thought, even on the other side, that protective orders don't work. And that's what we got to kind of play to. Anyways, that was somewhat enlightening. I will tell you this. I talked to a lot of people on Capitol Hill. And the key thing for VAWA, if you guys don't understand, VAWA is going to be reauthorized in the next session of Congress. When you go in and talk to the Judiciary Committee staffers who are somewhat on our side, I mean, they tell me, and I've had 2 of them tell me, VAWA should have never been a law. We realize this thing is bad. They know it. But, actually figuring out, but then they say, but we can't just kill it now, it started. So what are we going to do? So that's what we got to work on, and what are we going to do? And back to whether or not we're making a difference. I was talking to one of these committee staffers, and she was telling me when this bill, S-1515, came up, this is this crazy bill that gives lawyers $55.5 million. It gives it to the ABA to help people who are victims. So normally lawyers are supposed to get pro bono work for the accused, but in this case it's for the accuser, which is a little weird. And for the first time ever, there was actually debate in the U.S. Senate on that bill. Some of our allies brought up the price tag for the bill. What are we doing here? And there was a debate, and what she told me is that's the first time ever in Congress that there was actually a debate on anything dealing with domestic violence. Normally, they just sail through. Only a few people that vote against everything ever vote against it, like, Ron Paul. But otherwise, they pass 100-0 in the Senate, 4 votes against. So what's happening is we are, and with the help of all you guys, through writing alerts and so forth, and responding to stuff, and being here for our lobbying days, and coming on knocking on doors, or knocking on Congress's offices, we're starting to make an impact because the debate is starting to turn. There's a recognition there. Now the other side's got a lot of momentum and a lot of inertia. We're fighting against that, but I think we're starting to make a difference on Capitol Hill. A couple other things that are happening too. Look at all the bills that are out there now. They're not getting through because of our efforts. It's a lot easier to kill some new bill than than to create a program that's already in process. There's the International Violence Against Women Act that wants to take the worst part of U.S. foreign policy. You know, it's one thing to say you want to export democracy and free markets. Okay, we can have debate. But to take our domestic violence and family law policy and export it to the rest of the world, that's what that would do. The good thing about that is there's a lot of stuff in there that a lot of people are against. And what that does, for example, I mean, wherever you stand on the abortion issue, it kind of pushes abortion on demand. Okay, we go to people that are pro-life and we bring this up to them. Then what that allows us to do is also talk about the bad parts of IVAWA, that what it does to the family, and then we can bring up, and then back to VAWA. See what it does to VAWA? It has the same thing. And so we're playing to what they are listening because of some other issue, but we can bring them in and we can explain to them the reason why VAWA is bad. And just as a couple examples, there's IVAWA, there's the lawyer bill. Earmarks are a big thing right now. You know, spending restraint. $55.5 million to the ABA. Lawyers? Do lawyers need more money from the government? I mean, come on. I mean, that's a big winner. You know, earmark reform and spending like that and government giving a handout to the ABA. We've been playing that issue and it's starting to play. There's an immigration bill Natasha talked about. So somehow immigration becomes part of VAWA. You know, that one isn't going anywhere but this time. And there's an anti-gun bill where a lot of Second Amendment people, that's a big deal. Want to confiscate guns, want to make it even stronger. It hasn't gone anywhere, but it's out there. These bills haven't gone anywhere because everybody out here is help. Working with us, other groups, they've stopped in this session of Congress. We ran the clock at them. They're not going to get anywhere. What we got to watch for is in the reauthorization, all those bills are going to become part of the next VAWA authorization. Good and bad, right? They're going to make the bill worse, but since some of these provisions are so bad and we've done a good job at presenting why they're bad, if they load it up with too much stuff, it'll be easier to get opposition. So from here, what we're doing largely is we are working our allies. We have a couple different strategies of how to get different groups of the political spectrum that I really won't go into, but we can talk about that if somebody wants to come up and talk to me about it. And what we want to do is create some debate, create some, and if we create the debate, we're likely to win. And that's what we got to work on, because up till now, there has not been a debate on the Violence Against Women Act. Nobody ever looks at it because they think if you're against the Violence Against Women Act, you must be for violence. We've been a lot better about our arguments, and with the help of everybody out here, I think we're starting a debate on the whys. And really, the time coming up over the fall and into the next year is going to be critical. And the support you guys have been giving us has been great. And we're going to stay at this. We're not going to stop. With your help, we're going to keep going. So that's all I got. And thank you to everybody too. So.